Hello, I'm Shane M. Nygaard, and welcome to the ninth house, Free Spirits, Reflections on Early Afternoon Light. The ninth house is often described as the house of philosophy, religion, higher learning, international travel, divination, and the search for meaning. But in this series, I'm approaching the houses through the quality of light, as if the chart itself were a 24-hour cycle of the soul. See, if the ascendant is sunrise and the 10th house culminates at high noon, then the ninth house belongs to early afternoon. Noon has passed. The sun is still bright, but something has changed. The light begins to angle. Shadows begin to lengthen. Certainty starts to loosen. This is the essence of the ninth house, the moment when life opens beyond the literal and begins to reveal a farther horizon. There is an hour in the day when certainty begins to loosen. The sun is still high enough to make the world appear legible. We are not yet in dusk or dream, and yet perception has shifted. The early afternoon introduces a philosophical change. The world remains visible, but visibility is no longer absolute. The shadows that were nearly erased at noon begin to return. They do not announce darkness, they offer contour. This is why the ninth house is not simply about knowledge. It is about the kind of knowledge that begins when certainty softens. The question after the answer, the horizon beyond the map. In the time of day model, the ninth house belongs to the hours just after noon. The sun is still sovereign, but it has begun its descent. Light now comes at an angle. That angled light is the great teacher of the ninth house. It reveals that meaning is not always found in what stands directly in front of us. Sometimes meaning appears through distance, perspective, implication, and mystery. That is why this house governs the great meaning-making traditions: religion, spirituality, philosophy, divination, even astrology, myth, travel, and higher learning. Each moves us beyond the immediate surface of life and toward a larger pattern. The ninth house does not reject the visible world. It simply refuses to believe the visible world is all there is. It begins with reality, then asks, what does this open into? That question leads us into philosophy, religion, myth, metaphor, and divination. The ninth house looks at an event, looks at an image, or a journey, or a dream, a symbol or sign, and wonders, what larger meaning might this carry? It says the world is not only made of objects, it is made of correspondences. The road is not only a road, the image is not only an image. Life is always pointing beyond itself. Jung, psychologist Carl Jung's instruction to stick with the image is essential to the ninth house. Astrology is an imaginal language. It speaks in planets, signs, houses, aspects, symbols, myths, and correspondences. It does not merely give us data, it gives us images. Jung also tells us that image is psyche. and psyche means soul. So to remain with the image is not to escape reality, it is to enter the soul's mode of knowing. This is where the ninth house becomes one of the great houses of ensoulment. It takes the visible and asks, what lives inside it? The movement from the 10th house to the ninth house is subtle but profound. The 10th house has the hard brilliance of culmination, visibility, authority, reputation, and public definition. But when we move into the ninth house, the light begins to angle. Shadows return, not yet as darkness, but as suggestion. The world becomes dimensional again. This is one of the secrets of the ninth house. Meaning begins where literalism ends. The return of shadow does not obscure the truth, it reveals that truth has depth. The ninth house teaches that surfaces are thresholds. Facts matter. The literal world matters. But facts alone cannot contain the whole of existence. There is always more than meets the eye. In this house, the visible world becomes a doorway. A journey becomes a pilgrimage. A book becomes a revelation. A foreign country becomes an encounter with the unknown, even if that unknown is within oneself. A symbol becomes a vessel of soul. This is why strong ninth house placements often resist closed explanations. They want to look farther, travel wider, study more deeply, and ask larger questions. If I were to add one phrase to the usual descriptions of the ninth house, I'd likely call it the house of metaphor. Metaphor says one thing and means another. It stretches language beyond literal meaning. That makes metaphor deeply ninth house. It's a kind of travel inside language. It takes us from one world of meaning into another, a foreign country spoken within one's own tongue. The soul loves metaphor because metaphor leaves room for depth. It does not flatten experience into definition. It lets meaning widen. So now let's try to look deeper into this with some chart examples. So we'll look at four very different people with very strong ninth house charts. First, we have the late Jungian analyst Marianne Woodman, who offers a luminous example of the ninth house through metaphor and depth. With Venus, Neptune, Moon, Sun, and Mercury in the ninth house, her work continuously moved beyond literal explanation into symbolic truth. Woodman looked into what has been cast into shadow, especially around feminine consciousness, around the body, addiction, eating disorders, aging, and inherited spiritual structures. She did not reduce these experiences to symptoms alone. She listened for the image beneath them. Her work shows that metaphor is not decoration. It is a vessel for psychic truth. I mean, really, just look at some of her books, her work. They include The Owl Was a Baker's Daughter, which is about obesity, anorexia, and the repressed feminine. She has Leaving My Father's House, a journey to conscious femininity, and Bone, dying into life. Such metaphorical titles and profoundly deep works. If Marianne Woodman shows the ninth house through metaphor, jazz legend Ella Fitzgerald shows it through what we can call lift. With Sun, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter in the ninth house, Fitzgerald brought into the world a joy that was not naive, but liberating. It was uplifting. She came of age during the Great Depression, a period of hardship and collective contraction. And yet, swing music rose in that atmosphere. It did not deny suffering, it gave people agency to breathe inside it. Ella's voice carried more than sound, it carried possibility. This too is ninth house, not solemn doctrine, but spiritual elevation. Ella putting the Ella in elevation. The ninth house is often described in serious terms: religion, philosophy, law, doctrine, higher education. But it is also a house of uplift. It is where the spirit discovers that life is larger than its immediate enclosure. This is what travel can do. This is what study can do, and it's what music can do, such as Ella Fitzgerald's music. This is what sacred story can do. The ninth house opens the windows of the soul and lets in a bigger sky. It says, do not mistake your current horizon for the edge of reality. Next, we have Nobel Prize winning physicist Richard Feynman, who offers another expression of the ninth house, inquiry and questioning, as vocation. With Sun, Moon, and Jupiter in the ninth house, his life reveals this house not as doctrine, but as wonder, disciplined into thought. His work in quantum electrodynamics concerned the interaction of light and matter, which feels beautifully fitting in a series devoted to the qualities of light. He explored realms most of us cannot directly see, then found ways to make them imaginable. What stands out is not only complete brilliance, but his relationship to the unknown. He's even said, quote, I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned. In the ninth house, knowledge is not possession, it is pilgrimage. And lastly, we see some lives do not give us answers, they deepen the questions. 1980s actor and heartthrob John Eric Hexum, with Sun, North Node, Neptune, Mars, and Jupiter in his ninth house, carries a haunting ninth house signature. He is remembered for beauty, charisma, and roles that made him very visible, including the wonderfully ninth house title, Voyagers. But his life was also marked by a sudden tragedy that resists easy comprehension. In 1984, while filming this television series Cover Up, Hexum jokingly placed a prop gun loaded with blanks to his head and pulled the trigger. Though there was no bullet, the force of the blank cartridge fractured his skull and caused a fatal brain injury. He was declared brain dead 6 days later. And yet the mystery did not end there. As an organ donor, his heart, corneas, kidneys, and skin were given to others. His heart alone saved the life of a 36-year-old man. We could say some lives end where meanings start, which helps us see a farther sky behind the heart. The ninth house does not always answer the question. Sometimes it makes the question sacred. So I call the ninth house free spirits because freedom here is not mere independence. It is not rebellion for its own sake. It is the freedom of a soul that cannot be enclosed by the surface of things. The ninth house is the freedom to question, the freedom to travel, to imagine, symbolize, praise, and wonder. It is the freedom to let meaning remain alive rather than deadened into certainty. The free spirit is not someone who escapes the world. The free spirit is someone who sees through the world, beyond it, within it, and into the more that calls from just outside the frame. The blessing of the ninth house is that it teaches us to love what is visible without worshiping only the visible. It reminds us that the world is never merely what it appears to be. There is always a farther country, a larger sky, a truth not yet fully seen. In early afternoon, the light is still bright, but now the shadow has returned just enough to tell us that reality has depth. Perhaps this is where the soul grows, wherever meaning widens, wherever an image becomes a doorway, wherever a question becomes a pilgrimage, wherever the visible world opens toward mystery. The ninth house does not ask us to abandon the world. It asks us to see through it, beyond it, and into the more. Thank you. May the road remain open. May the questions stay alive. And may the visible world always lead us toward a larger sky. And for additional mythic, poetic, astrological content, visit my Substack, Mythic Currents, at mythiccurrents.substack.com.